Hello and welcome to another carrotscraps video, and by another I mean the 8th. Today's going to be a very different type of video. I'm going to be using test footage from my sticky shotgun only run, so just ignore the face cam at the top right hand corner of the video. I think modern game updates and patches are getting out of hand. In fact, I think the closest comparison to these game studios revising their games until they break is George Lucas's obsession with making the original Star Wars movies better. Most agree that while the updated versions of the film are appreciated, they still want the option to engage with the media in its original form. In modern games, it's become the norm to release games and heavily alter them according to the reviewer and player reception afterward. I do appreciate studios taking their fans into consideration, but it has to be understood that by altering these games, you're catering to one audience and actively upsetting another. In many cases, upsetting the fans who enjoy the game as is. Doom Eternal finally received its first update since launch, and at first I was excited. The additions to gameplay and new features felt more like DLC, something I'm more comfortable with, content that adds to the game and doesn't alter the original experience. But the minute I read balancing, I began to worry. Sure enough, many parts of the game myself and many others played, enjoyed, and completed had difficulty nerfs. In some places, like the purple goo changes and the acid water changes, the updates were minor. But altering the AI of enemies begins to change the experience completely. I mentioned in a video recently that I felt many people saying the game was too hard were those who would play on a difficulty not appropriate for them, and not willing to adjust the difficulty scale for themselves. Now, I'm not trying to insult those people by saying this. It's not a bad thing if you play on easy or normal, otherwise the developers wouldn't include those difficulties in the first place. It could be as simple as a new player needing an easier difficulty their first playthrough so they can understand and get comfortable with the game. Then after they understand the gameplay, they can dive into a harder difficulty later. I mean, even expert players didn't start Eternal on Ultra Nightmare. I mean, most of them anyway. A quote that has stuck with me while watching other videos about this update is that people play the higher difficulty for a challenge. They want the game to be hard, so why edit the fun out of the game for those players? I've seen a lot of videos about the other aspects of this update that either don't affect me, don't bother me as much, or I'm not educated enough to talk about. However, the nerfs to the single-player campaign is something I'm fiercely against, and I don't see enough people talking about. It makes me sad that I'm not going to be able to play the launch version of a lot of my favorite games. Now, in some games, these changes are acceptable. If a bug or a feature is so unusable or so broken that it prevents the player from enjoying the game, or prevents the game from being played, obviously I think that should be fixed. If a game is an MMO or a live game, then you buy into the fact that the game is going to be regularly updated and balanced. The nature of that kind of game is change. I'll even give the pass to fighting games. I think most fighting game players buy into their game knowing and expecting and wanting there to be balancing changes to the characters. However, I don't think it's controversial to say that the buy-in for Doom Eternal is the single-player campaign. Like 2016, the developers seem dedicated to delivering a compelling single-player experience. And in a way, I would say that that encouragement is trying to harken back to older gameplay. These developers want you to feel like Doom Eternal is a classic game. Now yes, there is a multiplayer mode in the game. This is a part of the game that should have regular maintenance, especially considering the experimental nature of it. Nerfs, buffs, and changes are expected in this multiplayer part of the game. But I do think it's so bizarre that they would go back and change the single-player campaign. Now, I've been playing the single-player campaign on Xbox One since the update, and if I'm being honest, I haven't really felt any difference. Yet. However, even the idea that the AI could be different, or that the game is subtly easier, it really does upset me. I mentioned in one of my Doom Eternal Sticky Shotgun mod videos that I was nervous when people were asking for the Marauder to be nerfed, but that eventually I brushed that worry off, because I was confident that the developers at id Software and of Doom Eternal were so confident in their game from what I could tell, that they were more likely to add a reviewer's difficulty that would remove all enemies from the game just to mock those people. But instead, it seems like they've gone against their fans to make the game easier. After recording this, I discovered that Hugo Martin made it very clear that the Marauder was not altered at all in this update. While many people aren't sure whether they should believe this or not, I wanted to make it clear that one of the main developers on the game is making an effort to reassure fans that they aren't trying to change the game too drastically. Now, will I stop playing Doom Eternal? I don't know. I don't think so. Like I said, from what I can tell, I can't really notice any big changes. but I can't say for sure, because as it stands, I have a different game to play through now. Even if it's subtly different, I don't know what the campaign is anymore. Now, I use Doom Eternal as an example because it's a game I really enjoyed, but this is happening to tons of games. And it's not just happening. These kinds of changes to games after launch are extremely normal, and in a lot of cases, like Doom Eternal, they end up breaking the game. I feel like this should be a sign that maybe we should back off from these Star Wars Special Edition changes. People just want the game that you released. And unless you're fixing a game-breaking bug, or unless you're altering a game sold with the expectation that it will change over time, I beg of you, please stop changing the games that we love. Anyway, thank you so much for watching. If for some reason you enjoyed this video, don't forget to give it a like and to subscribe to my channel for more. To watch me play video games live, check me out on Twitch at carrotscraps. To check out my other social media, Instagram and Twitter, I'm at carrotscraps on all of those. And that about does it for this video. Thanks again for joining me, and I'll see you soon. I can't headbang with a hat on.